The Mystery of BELICENA VILLCA. Fourth Book. Quest for Uncle Kurt. Chapter 39. 20 days after our departure from Shanghai, we disembarked in Hamburg. There an officer of the exterior SD was waiting for us at the commanding a platoon. His orders: guide to Karl von Grossen, Eskadville, and Shrevivia, and Bangai, in 2 cars towards Berlin. I had moved aside from the group, and take a 3rd car towards the local airport, where a plane would transport me likewise to Berlin. We were going to separate each other for first time in many months, and the experience resulted painful. We all had lost comrades, and ran mortal dangers together. The lived adventures united us. Before abandoning them, von Grossen wanted to talk me alone. I knew it. He told me with worried tone: Kurt von Subeman, you were the first key of the Operation First Key. And that Legionshift will be only occupied of you. We, from now on, will remain uncommunicated, isolated from the rest of the SS, to avoid that we speak. We know a lot, Kurt, perhaps, more than what is convenient for the initiates of the Black Order that someone knows. I feel that we may not see each other again, he concluded mournfully. You rave, my Standartenführer! I exclaimed horrified. This cannot be. We're returning after the accomplishment of an important mission, I believe that successfully, and there is no motive that instead of receiving the superior approval someone be punished. You are tired, von Grossen, I say respectfully. You'll see how we will meet again soon, in a brewery of the Friedrichstrasse to celebrate. It is natural that we must give the correspondent informs to our respective units, but, after those logic formalities we will have time to see us again. Karl von Grossen was shaking his head as refusing to admit that my arguments penetrated through his ears. No. Von Subeman, once again, you don't understand the situation. Listen to me well now, because the possibility of our separation is definitively real. I say it to you, very conscious and grounded in all my previous experience in secret operations. I am not so tired as to be unable to prevent what can occur. We will be eliminated. It means that if you don't save us, Kurt, believe me, we will live only if you assure to your chiefs that we will not talk to anyone about what we have seen. That is the guarantee that they need to leave us free, absolutely opposed to what you suppose. Ha, a report. You make me laugh, von Subeman. Who cares if do a report about what I have seen in the Tibet, and what I've seen you doing? Do you think that the initiates of the Black Order will permit the existence of an official report about the Vimana of Shambhala, or about the Dox Davis or your Scrotra Rame? No, von Subeman. Because of you we are condemned to death. And only you can save us. On the contrary, referring to what's suggested, assure to your chiefs that neither Eskadville nor I will make any report, and it can be that thus we'll conserve our lives. I calmed him the best I could, reaffirming him my loyalty. I'd never permit that something could happen to them for my cause. And we left, separately, towards Berlin. In the airport of Berlin, a Mercedes-Benz Chancellery with motorcycles escort was waiting. At seeing it, I thought that they were waiting a minister of general, but my surprise was so great when I recognized the SS Oberführer standing by a side of the door. Kurt von Subeman, he called him, smiling kindly. I couldn't avoid to remember the first time I saw him, in the cabin of Rudolf Hess, in the Obersalzberg of Berchtesgaden. He also remembered, because he said, when I just approached, 6 years, Kurt. A lot or little. 6 years, and you're back from your first mission. We have feared for you. Did you know? It has been relief for all those who were informed about the operation to receive news of you. Bird from Shanghai. Ha! Nobody could believe it. You'll tell me then, how you did to cross China. The car crossed the Spree, off the bridge of the castle, and started to spin around the Lustgarten. I looked at Edwin surprised, but I didn't have time to say something. I thought that you would enjoy doing a previous walk around the city, before going to the Chancellery. It will reanimate you, after so many months in Asia." Edwin Pap had interpreted my feelings correctly. It was indescribable the happiness that I felt then, to be in my homeland again, from which more than one time on the last weeks, I bade farewell, supposing that I would never return. The Mercedes took towards the west and turned before the door of Brandenburg, which was covered with flags with swastikas and wreaths of the recent parties. Now, I was going towards the east, by the Unterdarb Linden, of Avenue of the Lindens. I was the Pariser Platz, and the statue of Frederick the Great. At the end of the avenue, we turned back to the Bibelplatz, ambit of the Palace of the Emperor, of the Royal Library, of the Opera of Berlin, of the Catholic Church St. Hedwig, of the University, and many military edifices. Finally, from the Linden and the Bibelplatz, the car went to neighborhood Freistadt, and started to roll through the Wilhelmstrasse, which is its eastern limit. The journey had ended. Do you imagine who sent me to the airport for you? No. Your Patekind suffered a lot when we believed you lost, and he has enormous impatience to salute and hug you. He didn't want that anyone deviate you, and for this reason he sent his car to receive you and commissioned me, under rigorous orders, he joked, to guard you safe and sound at his side. Minutes later we arrived to the 77 of the Wilhelmstrasse. In the Reichskanzlei, indeed, the Slevatrichter of the Führer is waiting for us. 1 hour later, after I said goodbye to the Oberführer Edwin Pap, I left the Chancellery accompanied by Rudolf Hess. He was really excited to see me, and then, I comprehended how much loved me such old comrade of my dad. During the 6 years that he was occupied of my destiny in Germany, he was not only as a father, but he professed me identical affection. Now we were going to the Strasse 239, to visit to Konrad Tarstein. It was the first time that we would go together and, as Rudolf Hess, could be easily recognized by the public, and he didn't want to attract the attention over Tarstein's domicile, he had insisted in that I drive the Mercedes, while he remained discreetly seated on the back seat. In reality, not only with Rudolf Hess, but with no one else than Tarstein, I was in the mysterious mansion. I even reached to suspect that the initiates of the Black Order would reunite in other sight, because never during the 2 years that I frequented the house, was some else a part of the two of us. But that time would be different. As a ritual repetition, I tugged the mouldy shackle that turned inside a bronze fist, and the startling voice of Konrad Tarstein responded from some undefined place, behind the rickety door. "Yes. I am Kurt von Suberman." I presented myself, speaking to the tiny eye-hole where a pair of elusive little eyes of the great initiate verified my identity. The door was opened and the chubby and little figure of Konrad Tarstein appeared, with the hand courteously extended to salute me. "Kurt, Rudolf, I'm glad to see you," he said, breaking the ritual. "Come in. We were waiting for you." It was January 1939. We spent the new year in high seas, with von Grossen and other comrades. I thought in them, while Tarstein was guiding me to a lounge in which I never entered, situated in the top floor. I thought in them, and I remembered the news that I had. In my opinion, the expedition of Ernst Schaefer had failed on its purpose to seal the pact between the healthy forces of Germany and the white fraternity of Shambhala. If I was right, the door of the Shambhala had been closed before reaching to any agreement, and, therefore, the destruction of the Third Reich, and the universal establishment of the Synarchy, were not assured to the enemy. It was January of 1939, and the Second World War would begin on September of that year. Around a strange table with form of half-moon, were seated 16 initiates of the Black Order SS. Apart from Tarstein and Rudolf Hess, I only recognized 4 more as high personalities of the Third Reich. The remaining 10 were completely unknown for me until then. All were plain dressed, but I supposed that many would be militaries, although others had to be undoubtedly citizens, especially the Asian man, whose presence, filled me with astonishment. I was presented by Tarstein, and the initiates saluted me nicely, but they never gave their names. On the contrary, they identified themselves with pseudonyms just as Aquila, Leo, Serpens, Draoniasa, Kerifs, Peva, Sequence, etc. They invited me to take a sit with them, on an elbow chair, located in the convex part of the half-moon. And well, Loops, what happened with the operational twist in Ernst Schaefer, and with the men that you lost in Operation First Key? Asked Tarstein, baptizing me in that way. All dead, or disappeared, I affirmed. All the members of the operational Tweston, as the hours. But let me, gentlemen, relate you step by step, the events occurred since I felt from Germany. No one undeterred, when I advanced the luck ran by the absent ones. Nor during the next hours, employed in the narration, in which I did my best to give the main details, and present the information in the most objective manner. Tarstein, made pleasant the extensive soiree with 2 rounds of coffee, the last one, accompanied with exquisite confitures. And I was not almost interrupted, except to request some concrete clarification. As I'd understand later, those men didn't need to ask anything, because they all were extraordinary clairvoyants. They possessed what they denominated in the Klitzschildschaft faculty of an amnesius. It means a power own of the Hyperborean initiates, that permitted them to explore the Akashic cultural records. From there, from the Grigorstrade 239, they have seen what I related from our adventures in the Asia. Don't take it bad, estimated Loops, said Tarstein at last, but we are going to beg you to wait down. We must sustain a council. The deliberation lasted 1 more hour, until I was convoked again. Conrad Tarstein opened the dialogue. I congratulate you, Loops. Unanimously we have coincided in that the Operation First Key has been a success. Even for the casualties, that cost nothing but for the spiritual benefit to have frustrated the plans of the demons. The 3 fallen, Heinz, Hans, and Klester, will be awarded, as well as Von Krupp and his men, because they didn't participate from the conspiracy of Schaefer. Let me interrupt you, Camarade Unicornish. It is good to decorate the dead, but what do you tell me about the ones who are alive? What will happen with Karl von Grossen, Eskadfil, and the 2 Tibetans? Where are they? Uncommunicated, of course, confirmed Tarstein vaguely. Look, Loops, we could only let them free, and even promote them, if you are sure that they will not talk out of place. And what could I do to give such credit? It's simple, Loops. It would just be necessary to form a body commanded by you. For example, Eskadfil would be since now your assistant, and you will be in charge to control his tongue. In the same manner, Karl von Grossen would be dedicated to train a team of elite to support you in your future missions, and he would be in permanent contact with you. What do you think? I'm agree, I affirmed, relieved, and very pleased. Because those men deserve the best treat. They are priceless, brave and patriot men. But now, gentlemen, after clarifying that matter that worried me, can I make some questions? Sure, accepted Tarstein Unicornish. Well, the case is that you seem to know what happened in that valley of the Tibet. Could you then clarify me some doubts? For example, why we were attacked, and by whom? And I also have a query, perhaps not so serious as the previous, but that I am not ashamed to set forth here, is about the future of the Dokdeva. I can't deny you, gentlemen, that the left runner, caged in Hamburg, has caused me great displeasure, considering that it treats of a unique exemplar on the earth, and that is near to give birth. You're right, Loops. Accepted Tarstein. Tomorrow early, we will send the best veterinarian officer of the SS, and his team of assistants, with the mission to transport safe and sound to Berlin, and take care of the Dokdeva. Have no doubts that we valorize that animal on its fair measure, and we consider it a secret weapon of the Third Reich. and about all what you asked first. Continued Tarstein, you were attacked by the Druids. By the Druids? I repeated incredulous, but if we were in the Tibet? Yes, by the Druids. Do you remember what I have warned you the first day that you came to this house? Within the hunters of the Sinaki, the Druids are in charge to collect pieces of your species. Of your species, Kurd von Saberman. Are you surprised that they have ambushed in the Tibet? But, you must have present that were, at the door of Beret, and Bishar. It means, the sinister aperture whereby the priests of Melchizedek enter to Shambhala. On that particular door, Ernst Schaeffer wanted to call, because from there have come the archpriests and archdruids of the European orders of the wide fraternity. Beret and Bishar? I asked disconcerted. Effectively, Beret and Bishar, replied the Asian, to whom we called Phoenix. Remember loops? Did you see two majestic images, one on each side of the door? I guess that you're referring to the winged Buddha's Avis figures, that were carved on the walls of the ravine, Odvara, or Shen, that is to say, on the aperture between mountains at the end of the glen. I remember them perfectly. On both walls of the ravine of the exit, and, as of a height of 25 or 30 meters, existed two low reliefs that represented some beings of divine nature, a kind of angels, or armed Bodhisattvas. I remained in silence for some seconds, evoking such unforgettable vision. Then I added, they had wings. Both angles exhibited outspread dove's wings. And they dressed white tunics down to the ankles. Yes, it was a druid suit, all white-fed. They even wore the four-leaf clover on the chest, and small stars, suns, half-moons, on the guard. And I also remember their weapons. Each one of them had the right hand closed over a handle, from which protruded two globes on both sides. The scene was very suggestive, and for this reason, I remember it with much lucidity. I was standing on the ravine of the entrance, when the things with von Krupp were already clarified. Then, I looked at the west, at the end of the glen, and I saw the vertex of the aperture, or pass, flanked by those colossal sculptures. Both signalized with the index of their left hand the exit, as inviting to come in, gesture that they accompanied likewise with their diabolic countenances. However, the right hands didn't stop to point with their globes towards any possible visitor, that's to say, towards the center of the glen. I think that I was looking precisely at the western ravine, and its terrible guards, when emerged from there the ball of light, that the Tibetans called the Vimana of Shambhala. There are no doubts, because you have been in front of the door of Beret and Bishar, assured the Phoenix. The mysterious angels that you have described are not such, neither Bodhisattvas, but demons of the worst kind, who are commonly denominated immortals. Beret and Bishar are two immortal demons, who for thousands of years have acted in Europe and Asia, and whose image you have had the luck, or the disgrace, according to how it is looked, to contemplate in that glen of the Tibet. Their master, Melchizedek, destined them since millenniums ago, to make them work, in favor of the universal synarchy of the chosen people, especially in charge to sustain the conspiracy in the bosom of the populations of Indo-European lineage, Indo-Aryan and Hindustani. In the European context, they have been the supreme archdruids, that directed the druidic order in secrecy, and is for this reason that Unicornish, and other initiates qualify them as druids, or Galeen. But they are beings much more powerful than the druids, to whom they command. For example, they have been distinguished by written Jalpo, the king of the world, with the power of the Dorji, the most terrible weapon of the solar system. Dorjes. Those were the weapons, similar to two globes united by a handle, that you observed on the low reliefs of the immortals. But you loops not only perceived the Dorjes carved on the stone, you experienced in your own flesh its mortal power. I looked at him open-mouthed, and the Phoenix clarified even more what my ears refused to hear. Specifically, loops, The hum of bees that you felt, and that caused the death of your comrades, in nothing else than the acoustic manifestation of the power of the Dorji, which acts also on the other four tadvas. With the Dorji, is possible to emit the M, or the final yod, the monosyllable of the dissolution of the created forms, which is identical to the bija, of the beginning of creation. It is very possible that the demon Bere was who applied the power of the Dorji over your heart. In sum, consider as true that you have been in front of the door of Bere and Bishwa, in a comb of the Tibet, known since ancient times as the pitch. Of course, it is not easy to reach to the pitch, it means, it is not easy to reach its eastern ravine, but curiously, in many ancient maps figures there, where you have found it, next to the Mount Selton tag. It cannot be, I denied irrationally. I saw an extraterrestrial flying vehicle. I don't know what it was, but with security the buzz emerged from it. Well, thus it is, appreciated loops. The phenomenon that you saw was the demon Bere, on all his power. It was not about a flying vehicle, neither of Imana, nor an unknown airplane, but of an absolute unity of energy at the universe, animated by the infernal intelligence of Bere, which is the Zephyr Bina. An absolute unity of energy. An archetypal atom, adopted by Bere and Bishwa, to present themselves, and unchain the dissolvent force of the Dorji. That is what you witnessed, although, you believe to have seen another. It is not possible, I repeated, disturbed, resisting to accept that such mortal presence be in reality a demon immortal, and that such monster be finally behind my steps. I started to comprehend what Arstein wanted to say, it warning me about the hunters of the Sinaki, who would procure to collect pieces of my kind. Imperturbable, Phoenix continued explaining. The archetypal atom is the primordial form par excellence, the agate Brahma, the monad done in the image and likeness of the One. All the real atoms and all the atomic forms, all the unities, emanate from him, and participate from his exemplary existence. And you know why Bere adopted that form to manifest himself unto you, and employ the power of the Dorji. Because, the only mode that rests to a demon as he, traitor to the spirit of man, to resist the sign of the origin that you exhibit, is to log himself in the absolute unity of the created monad. But you have already seen the result of that tactic, Comrade Loops. He cannot defeat you, with the sign of the origin that you possess, and the doors of Shambhala have been closed to our foes. Oh, I'd not be so optimist, Comrade Phoenix, I suggested him, while I was shuddered for old and new fears. I make you present that, if I conserve my life, is not precisely for the effect of the sin, but thanks to the intervention of those incredible warriors that are the Kalika monks, and the inestimable collaboration of the Dox Davis, that took us out from the Glenavelton tag. Oh, Comrade Loops, I fear that you don't understand the situation. Phoenix made me the same reproach that von Grossen did. Evidently, I didn't comprehend anything, or very little, of what was happening around me. All pretended to comprehend better than me what was happening. Oh, I was becoming extremely obstinate, or stupid. But, whatever it could be, there was something that I comprehended, and in what I wasn't wrong. The cause of all my ills, that until yesterday, I considered a wonderful privilege, was the inapprehensible sign of the origin. Distinction of the gods or stigma. In front of me, the most important men of the Third Reich set to count with me, and with my sign, to carry out the plans of the Führer. But, and was comprehending them now, the most terrible forces of hell, forces that, I have seen up close in the Tibet, they considered me a priori, their mortal enemy, and they would develop against me an unimaginable attack. Allegorically speaking, such situation, the only situation that perhaps I understood, was that the Third Reich was preparing to march over the world, as a cyclopean phalanx, and that, I would perform then, the function of standard-bearer. Yes, I'd be the standard-bearer of the Third Reich, and the flag that I'd lift, would be the sign of the origin, the sign of Lucifer, the sign of Wetan, the sign of Shiva, my sign. And, as in every army in operations, the enemy would try to conquer the flags, our flags, procuring to cast down without warning, the standard bearer, trying to remove the sacred ensign of the spirit, trying to take its life, trying to take the standard, trying to take my life, trying to take my sign. I didn't protest for the commentary of Phoenix, and he continued. Estimated loops. You don't owe to anyone your salvation, but yourself. Don't forget you that existed an Operation First Key, and Dogs Davis, that happened because previously existed a Initiate Kurt von Subeman, who carried the sign of the origin. The Dogs Davis, and you, are the same thing, because without you, there would be neither Dogs Davis, nor sign of the origin, or of Shiva, no one capable to put his self beyond Kla and Ekla. The demon Biray attacked you with the fury of Vimana, and you think that you was saved, thanks to the Dogs Davis. Well, you must know that as your own insecurity, the lack of faith in yourself, your incomprehension of the situation, the cause that you animate so erroneous conviction. Because, if you were really the initiate that you must be, secure of yourself before the death, and beyond the death, until the origin, you would know without doubts, that your sign has turned you invulnerable to the attack of any created being, even the most powerful God. If you would be alone, in front of the demons Bure and Bishwa, or other similars, and they apply you all the power of the Dorji, over the heart, you would remain easily out from their scope, situating yourself beyond Kla and Ekla, in the origin, or creating with Atlupandra, your own Dogs Davis, or Davis Horse's Lungpack, or any illusion like that. Okay. I give up. I proposed sorrowfully. And before that the clams of the initiates of the Black Order become incontestable. I will do an effort to comprehend your perspectives. I promised. Do you believe really that those damn immortals not only attacked unto death, but they closed the door of their lair? Yes, Loops, interjected Tarstein. I'll tell what happened, according to the coincident vision of all the initiates present here. In principle, and this will surprise you, we have motives to think that Ernst Schaefer didn't die in the pitch. And if he would have died during the attack, we are sure that the immortals would resuscitate him. For what? To send him to Europe for your head. Never, understand it well, Loops, because in this depends your life. They will never permit the existence of someone like you, in a synarchic society. On the contrary, being you in the midst, there will be no pact between the wide fraternity, and the secret societies of the synarchy, and therefore, there will no constitution of the synarchy. Undoubtedly, Ernst Schaefer, or other similar p-head, will be delegated by the demons to make that their conditions be heard in Occident. And in those new conditions will be demanded the elimination of you, and all those who use you, are carriers of the sign of the origin that they can't bear. The universal synarchy of the end times, must see the traitor gods dominating the world, as in the days of the Atlantis, cheek by jowl with the great rabbis of the chosen people. But, they could not do it while in the world exist spiritual men to raise the standard of the origin, speaking with the runes of Wetan. Thence, that can affirm without fear to be wrong in that the Operation First Key has been a success. We have taken an initiate with the sign of the origin to the pitch, in front of the door of Bure Bishwa, of Chang Shambhala, and we have rescued him for the strategy at the Third Reich. In one word, we have inflicted the greatest defiance in his own terrain. It is impossible that they want something else than vengeance. And the reprisals will not be of diplomatic or politic order anymore, neither will propitiate secret pacts that endorse the strokes of the state, or palatial intrigues. The Third Reich shall prepare to resist a formidable military potency. And about you Loops, it is not necessary to tell what represents for us. To count with you, means to dispose of strategic advantage for the execution of the plans of the Black Order. Based on this we should try to preserve it from every danger, would be the most logic. Nevertheless we will do all the opposite. We won't neglect of your security, but we won't impede that you comply your mission, the mission that was entrusted to you by the gods, when they signalized you, with the sign of the origin. You will continue then, running risks. We will study carefully your future operations, and to close with you divine sign, the doors of hell. Now we know that you can do it. Will you? The 16 pairs of eyes were drilling my brain. I looked at Rudolf Hess, almost a father for me. What could I deny him? And to Konrad Tarstein, my Hyperborean instructor, the wise man, who revealed me so many secrets. What would I not give him, who nothing needed, neither asks for himself? And the other initiates, the secret architects of the new Germany, the chiefs of the Black Order SS, deny them something, was refusing to serve the homeland. In that moment, Nefetero, my answer could be just one. Heil Hitler! I screamed, and I lifted my right arm to assent unequivocally. My answer, Nif, and everyone comprehended that, was an oath, of Waffenheit SS. When all had left, 30 minutes later, and only remained the amphitryon, Rudolf Hess, and I, in the Gregorstrasse 239, we said goodbye to Tarstein, and left in the Mercedes. Just as before, I drived, and Rudolf Hess remained in the back seat. I desired to salute Ilse, and I discarded that we would go to the house of Rudolf, but he warned me immediately to the Hotel Kaiserhof. I looked at him by the rearview mirror, without comprehending. "Don't you guess who is waiting us there?" he asked, while he smiled mockingly. I trembled at asking. "My dad?" "Yes, Kurt. Your father in person. The Baron von Subeman has traveled especially from Egypt to interview his elusive son." "Oh, that's great. I can't believe it yet. You warn him, don't you? Tell me the truth, Teppert." "Well, yes. I notified him, when we knew that you were in high seas, that he could come 20 later to Berlin. And that was what he did without losing an instant. What was wrong with that? It is good to see your father at least once a year. Oh, at the end of the operation in which you almost lost your life. Do you approve my decision, don't you?" "Oh, yes, Teppert. You have given me the most beautiful gift that I could expect. That was one of the best nights of my life. With Dad, Rudolf, Ilse, and the little Wolfriedicke, in Berlin, January 1939, the world seemed to be in our hands. I still remember that during the dinner, Dad announced that his daughter had married with a German-Argentinian engineer, and that in little time, they would leave to establish themselves in Argentina, where the Siegniggels were owners of a warehouse. And that Rudolf also announced that I'd be promoted on the next days, in the hierarchy of the SS, with the grade of Standartenführer jumping thus, the intermediary grade of Obersturmbannführer. It'd be, he said, one of the youngest Standartenführer, or colonels of the Waffen-SS,